and welcome to today's episode at Smart Move to UK. And I'm super excited to do this episode. Particularly, I have Radhika Mohta, a special guest. She is a matchmaker and a relationship coach. In this episode, we're going to speak about immigration and relationship, particularly for spouse, fiancé, and settlement category of applications, and how this is important that you meet not only the immigration requirement but also have a good relationship. So Radhika, welcome to Smart Move to UK episode, and thank you so very much for being here. Please tell a little bit more about your work.
Sure. Thank you for having me here, Falguni. It was amazing meeting you in Bangalore, and it's so exciting to be recording this in Mumbai.
Same here.
So thanks for having me here. I've been working as a matchmaker and a relationship coach for the last 4+ years, and it's always fun and fulfilling to be able to bring people together, and excited about our conversation.
Yes, I was super excited when you said you are a matchmaker and a relationship coach, and I think suddenly the ideas came up to say that, as an immigration practitioner, I come across quite a lot of clients who are looking to get married, particularly in the UK, and settle. But I meet them at the stage where they already have been introduced. But I'm sure there's a journey before that as well, and which you evidence mostly in your work. So would you want to share your experience on that journey, how easy or difficult it is for them to find love?
Right. So hashtag finding love. So I've definitely seen people, and I do consult people who are marriage-minded singles, typically starting 25 and above, and definitely seen their journeys from the time where they are currently single, contemplating whether they would want to go abroad for their B school, masters, first job, whatever that is, all the way to already being in a job and getting transferred to an international location, or contemplating a job switch to move international, and then of course people already being in an exclusive relationship or being committed, and then looking at hey, my partner is in another country, and we don't want to do LDR, long distance relationship anymore, so working out the cross-border thing out. So a whole spectrum of relationships.
And it's so fascinating, isn't it, Radhika, the way they meet? I mean, it's never planned. I mean, it's not like you're applying for a university that you always dream to be. It just happens. It's quite magical in terms of how it happens. So this is also a very interesting part when I deal with clients and when I'm speaking to them. Of course, it's assessment based, because that's also what immigration requires to know. In how did you meet? How did the relationship start? When did you realize that you're in relationship? It is hardest part, because they didn't even realize when did they get into the relationship. So the specific question up over there to answer is to say, when did your relationship start? So it's very interesting that sometimes they just here for a secondment in India, they attended a high tea party and they met each other, or they just come down for a week to attend somebody else's wedding and they meet their own partners in there. Or it could be a school alumni where they left very long time back, they went there to do jobs, and when they came they found each other there and they realized that they really liked each other. So it's interesting, but I think from what we had this conversation, you see this as a challenge as well, and you see that that's also now becoming a reason on why they're not able to find partners when there's so much of a cross-border work in terms of their businesses, or if they're working and things like those. So where do you see this challenge being there?
Interesting. So across all the situations that you detailed out in terms of how are people meeting, I definitely see a commonality, the lowest common denominator being mutual friends. Across those weddings and those tea parties, there's this layer of familiarity and trust. So even if they said they are not actively looking out and not necessarily on apps at that point in time, the fact that somebody they trusted, somebody who was mutual, introduced them, made ensured that they covered the journey of not just swiping on them, but actually engaging with them in a conversation, going out on real dates and everything. So that sounds amazing. And in terms of how it's panning out, how long distance relationships pan out in a cross-border case, I think it's a matter of you need to be prepared that this is going to be financially and emotionally draining out, because there are only so many resources and there's only so much bandwidth, and long distance relationships are not easy. It is not to say that people don't make it. People do. You need to have the willpower to be able to do it, that commitment saying that this is it, the buck stops here. I'm not optimizing for more options. I'm not maximizing here.
True.
And looking at more profiles, more reviews, more people, whatever. And then there is most certainly a good amount of finances to be spent on those flight tickets or those impromptu thank you, sorry, I love you gifts, or those to be able to just keep in touch and show up for each other. And emotionally, I do understand that of the 5 love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, if physical touch is a love language, it can get really tough. I do see people gifting each other those huge teddy bears, like the 5 feet ones and the 7 feet ones, because they want to go to bed with that teddy bear and be like, hey, like one fine day this teddy bear is going to get replaced by my partner.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah.
And now, do you think that with evolving times where there's so much opportunities across borders and mostly people in their prime time of life moving to different countries for work, etc., and they're still single, I think their dilemma is what you were narrating to me in terms of where should they be looking? Is that the place where they've been posted? Should they try to find a match there, or should they be stuck to going back to their home country and trying to find?
Absolutely. So I remember speaking to I'll give you a case of this one person who's in her early 30s, and she comes from a product management background, worked in Hyderabad in India with an MNC, and now in London in UK. And she was confused. She was like, if I start looking out for somebody in Hyderabad or in India now, then what happens when I make that transition, go to London, and how are we going to continue and stuff? And then if I go to London, it's going to take another 6 months to feel settled and make the city feel homely enough. And then I'm losing out on those 6 months. So we discussed this, and I said, hey, what's your social life looking like here? I want you to have a good social life here. I want you to make friends, hang out, volunteer, do whatever, but show up in places where you feel a sense of belonging among people whom you would like and respect. And then eventually, when you transition to London, you replace those many hours on a weekly basis on your calendar with similar set of activities. So she loved playing board games here, and then she figured another set of people to play board games with there, because she had the time and availability on her calendar and the inclination to be able to play board games.
That's right.
And then she loved doing certain things here. So it was easier to find substitutes in the new location, and that could only happen because she had the intent to craft a social life here already. Otherwise, I do understand that it gets very challenging to have a lot of new variables one fine day in a new country. But if everything else is set, and it's only a few variables that you have to play around with, it's easier, right?
But that's so very interesting and so true, because when I speak to clients and they're excited, they're excited they found each other, they're excited they're going to start a new life, but there are these challenges which sometimes they've not foreseen, or sometimes they are too anxious about it in terms of how they're going to deal with it. Will they like the place or not? If they've never been to the UK before, they have their own mindset on what UK is like from maybe the books that they've read or the movies that they've seen, etc. So I think here is where, as a relationship coach, my audiences and everybody who's following this channel would want your tip on, what is it that they should start preparing apart from the immigration applications that we will be preparing them for. What is it that you advise them
Absolutely.
to prepare?
So, 3 things I've seen work for singles when they are considering moving out of India and they are currently single and they want to ensure that when they move there they are able to find their person. One, to have a good social life here. So depending on how many hours, like if you were currently partnered, what's the total number of hours that you would spend with your partner is the total number of hours I expect people to put into dating. And not to say on actual dates, but on grooming themselves, on making their lives interesting, on having a good social life. So that is one. I really want them to quantify how much time do they have, put it on their calendar, ensure they have their wardrobe ready to be able to go out. Not like, all the clothes are in my washing machine, I have to cancel on everybody today because I don't have anything to wear or whatever. That is one. And 2 is to ensure that they reach out to people they already know in that place. So either first degree connections from their alumni network, from past co-workers, from people they met at a conference, whatever, or reaching out to those first degree connections to ask for their friends, because we are hyper connected and everybody would know somebody who's in that location, and it gets easier to be able to get glued into the new ecosystem with the help of these people you can trust. So that's the second thing. Ask for referrals, like shamelessly ask for referrals, and people love to help provided you ask for that help. And then the third thing is, when you are in that place, like before you are in that place, make sure that you have done your research in terms of where are your people likely to be. So, what kind of communities, what kind of places, what kind of events you want to sign up for, what kind of expat community do you want to sign up for, all of that. And just like ask questions, because anytime we like to believe that we are the most unique among these 8 billion people on the planet, it's not true. I'm not saying that you or I aren't special, like we are, of course, to our parents, to our spouses, and who not. But there are other people who have been through the same situation as you, and it gets easier when you identify how did they make it, how did they cross the bridge. And when you break down the entire mountain into those little steps, you know that it's not about the whole big move from one country to another country and everything. It's about those little things of what needs to be communicated, to whom, what kind of actions I need to take, what are my timelines, and you'll make it.
That's a very amazing trip, and I think this is going to really be helpful to all the viewers, especially the young ones. They need to hear from a specialist like you, and I hope this has been of help. For more such episodes, please keep following our channel, and we're going to have more interesting conversation with Radhika Mohta and speak about more different aspects of the relationship-based application. Thank you very much for watching this. Till the next episode, bye-bye.